Coming up,
The State of Islam will not die.
the terrorist who plotted to blow up a plane over Australia.
It is a genuinely phenomenal terrorist plot.
He wanted to kill hundreds,
Was a level of creative execution that we have not seen.
even his own brother.
Can you believe that they were willing to sacrifice you?
I can't forgive. Forget them.
That's next on 60 Minutes.
The plot was as sophisticated as it was evil. ISIS terrorists had decided to target Australia. It was 8 years ago, and their nefarious ambition was to inflict maximum fear and loss of life by planting a bomb on a packed passenger plane and detonating it over Sydney. If they'd succeeded, hundreds of people in the air and probably more on the ground would have been killed. The plan failed, but as you'll see, only through sheer luck. And tonight, a chilling warning from one of the terrorists involved, that ISIS remains a deadly threat and is inspiring a new generation of radicalised zealots ready to once again rain terror on the West. Deep in the Iraqi desert, in the bowels of a dark and dilapidated jail, this death row terrorist is ready to give his first ever television interview. Wheelchair-bound with war wounds, Tarek Kayat is hardly an imposing figure. But not so long ago, he was a feared Islamic State or ISIS commander. Enlisting the help of his two brothers in Sydney, Tarek masterminded what almost became the most deadly terror attack on Australian soil.
In the end, my brothers were influenced by me. That's right. However, I did not anticipate that they would be influenced to such an extent and achieve what they have achieved.
We can take you inside the plot to blow up an aeroplane.
Foiled terror plot in Australia.
Plan to bring down a passenger jet.
The foiled plot stunned Australia and made headlines around the world. An extraordinary and sophisticated plan to blow up a passenger plane over New South Wales with 400 people on board. Tonight, for the first time, inside the 2017 plan to unleash evil.
We're coming on the air with breaking news in New Orleans. Local police are calling it an act of terror.
And the fresh global threats proving Islamic State is once again on the rise. Amir Kayat lives with a terrible truth about his family. He was set up to be sacrificed in a deadly scenario he knew nothing about. It's hard to imagine, but Amir's brothers planted a bomb in his carry-on luggage intending to blow up Etihad Flight 451 from Sydney to Abu Dhabi.
Can you ever forgive them?
I can't say no, I can say yes.
And is it painful for you too?
It's painful for me, of course, but what can you do? That's it. Forgive, I can't forgive.
You don't forgive them, but you forget them.
Forget them. Forget I have a brother.
It is a genuinely phenomenal terrorist plot. It really is in its sophistication and its innovation. It is probably the most impressive piece of terrorist tradecraft that I've ever seen.
So this plot must have really sent shockwaves through Canberra.
Yeah, it did.
When it comes to global terrorism, not much surprises counter-terror expert Dr. Levi West from the Australian National University. But the intricately devised Sydney bomb plot was unlike anything he'd seen before.
It had been a really long time since 9/11 that anyone had come even remotely close to a successful aviation-orientated terrorist attack. And given how close it got, really it was a quite surprising sophistication to the operation.
From an ISIS stronghold in the Syrian city of Raqqa Tarek Kayat and another senior operative hatched the plan, but they needed clean skins to execute it. Tarek's Sydney-based brothers, Khaled and Mahmoud Kayat, weren't exactly the perfect middlemen. They were committed to the cause, but they had no experience when it came to the technicalities of terror attacks. But for anyone here in our enforcement agencies, Mahmoud and Khaled were Australian immigrants, normal jobs, kids in school here.
Yeah, neither of them were particularly sophisticated, and they were not masterminds of anything. Two guys who, for the most part, didn't really know what they were doing one way or the other in terms of terrorism or making explosives.
In war-torn Syria, it's not hard to find bomb makers. The big gamble for ISIS was getting those parts into Australia. Unfortunately for our border security, it proved much easier than it sounds.
The Islamic State's development and manufacturing apparatus was able to develop a small-sized device that could get past all security measures at all airports.
All it took was a DHL courier package and a welder. The bit I still can't get my head around is how bomb parts can be mailed from Syria to Turkey to a suburban Sydney address and not be intercepted.
Yeah, so this is a really, really interesting innovation that they managed to master pretty successfully. The device itself was broken down into pieces and put inside of a welder on its shipping to Australia, shipped via DHL, right? And for the most part, that's a welder in a DHL box.
Remarkably, the package wasn't intercepted at its first port, Turkey, nor its final destination, Australia. But the plan almost unravelled in the hands of the inexperienced brothers. So the package is off to Sydney. It arrives at a cousin's house, but even that wasn't straightforward.
So there's this really quite almost farcical kind of tension between the sophistication of the commanders in Syria and the sophistication of the plot, and at times the ineptitude of the brothers in Sydney. Where on the day that the DHL package is supposed to be delivered, the cousin's not home. It requires the brothers in Sydney to call their cousin and say, hey, they're coming back. Call DHL and ask for it to be re-delivered. And then in the process, call the cousin and make sure that he's home so that they can go and pick up the package.
Their next major hurdle was putting the bomb together, which they did with the help of text messages from the well-oiled ISIS operation in Syria.
So what they received was incredibly explicit and incredibly detailed instructions on how to make the device. You know, they struggled with it. They worked their way through it diligently and managed to relatively successfully construct the device.
With the bomb assembled, Khaled and Mahmoud Kayat chose their martyr, their unsuspecting brother, Amir. Known for his partying and drinking, Amir was estranged from his devout Muslim family.
You need to go to Lebanon to visit the family.
1 month before the terror attempt, they reconnected with him, suggesting he fly to visit family in Lebanon. Why do you think they were willing to sacrifice you, their brother? Why do you think they chose you?
They chose me because I'm the bad person, they think.
You're
in their mind.
The black sheep of the family?
You can say that.
They don't approve of your lifestyle?
No. My lifestyle is different.
Does that weigh on you? Do you think about it still?
Of course. It's hard for me.
On the day of the flight, July 15, 2017, Khaled showed up to take Amir to the airport with a gift for his sister in Lebanon. A meat grinder. And he insisted on packing it himself. And what was he doing?
He was inside my room, checking the bag, fixing the bag, but I don't know what he's doing.
Did you think that was strange, that he was...
Oh, yeah, of course. For me, I feel strange. What's going on? He never did that, and he never take me to the airport. That's why I told him. I said, you don't have to. I will go by myself. I said, no. I will take you.
That's because inside the meat grinder was the small bomb the brothers had made. A meat mincer is not the most discreet kitchen appliance. Why put a bomb in that?
The best explanation that I've heard is that nobody knows what a meat grinder looks like when it goes through an X-ray machine. And as a result, the response is potentially like, is that a meat grinder? I guess. Okay. Through it goes.
Amir was about to be sent to his death, along with hundreds of innocent passengers travelling on Etihad Flight 451 from Sydney to Abu Dhabi, all in the name of Islamic State. Coming up, the stroke of luck that thwarted an aviation catastrophe.
And she waited.
She said, it's heavy weight. It's almost 9 kilos. You allow only 7 kilos. Now she said, you need to take something from it.
So this is you arriving, getting out at the airport. This is you or Khaled?
That's Khaled.
That's Khaled there.
Knowing what could have been, watching the CCTV from Sydney Airport on July 15, 2017 is truly eerie.
Oh, that's him.
That's him.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, he holds the bag after.
Amir Kayat thought he was headed to Lebanon for a happy family reunion. What he didn't know was that hidden inside a meat grinder in his carry-on luggage was a small live bomb put there by his brothers, Khaled and Mahmoud. Amir was to be the unwitting martyr in a deadly Islamic State terror plot.
Can you believe that Khaled and Mahmoud believed
They was doing this
they were
to
about
get
to put
killed.
you on a plane to your death?
Yeah, I don't believe that.
At the Etihad check-in desk, not captured on camera, Khaled gave his brother a firm and unexpected hug.
So was it strange to you
Strange
that
to
he was
me,
insisting on carrying the bag?
Yeah, someone getting my bag. Strange to me, someone hugged me like hold me like this and hug for like almost 5-6 minutes.
Do you think maybe he was saying goodbye?
Yes.
But one simple oversight was about to bring the entire plan undone. No one had bothered to weigh the carry-on luggage with the meat grinder inside. If there's a hero in this story, it's surely the Etihad check-in agent who told Amir that his cabin bag was overweight.
And she waited.
She said, it's heavy weight. It's almost 9 kilos. You allow only 7 kilos. And she said, you need to take something from it.
When she said the bag was overweight, what did Khaled do?
Khaled straight away, he took the bag.
Khaled clearly panicked, removing the meat grinder from the bag and rushing out of the terminal.
It was a great wake-up call, right? To understand that we are still operating at an incredibly elevated threat level. The fact is it could happen anywhere tomorrow.
Andrew McCabe was acting director of the FBI at the time and still remembers the global fallout. What was so unusual and unique about it?
I think the thing that shocked me the most then and still impresses me to this day is the sophistication of being able to essentially mail an explosive device into Australia from Syria, and then to be able to coach foreign recruited operatives to work with that device, to set that device up. That was a level of planning and really very creative execution that we have not seen in any of the many plots that we've foiled up until that time.
Would airport security have picked up the bomb?
I can say that that is certainly the sort of risk that mature security services and airlines are looking for around the globe. But it's not a perfect system. And it is an extraordinarily small amount of explosives, the successful detonation of which would actually be able to bring down an airliner. It doesn't take a large bomb or a lot of explosives. So it's literally looking for the needle in the haystack.
While Amir, none the wiser, happily boarded the plane to Abu Dhabi. 2 weeks later, after a tip-off from intelligence agencies, Australian Federal Police raided the Kayat brothers' homes.
Sir, can you tell us your name?
Seizing the bomb and arresting the men. In Lebanon, Amir was stunned to hear what his brothers had planned for him.
I told my sister, I said to her, you see, your brother, he tried to kill me.
Days later, he too was arrested, spending 3 years behind bars in Beirut before being cleared of any involvement and returning home to Australia.
I have to go back home to Australia. Australia is my country, not Lebanon.
Khaled Kayat was sentenced to 45 years in a New South Wales jail. Younger brother Mahmoud is there for 35 years. While that's reassuring, what's not is that 8 years since their extraordinary plan, Islamic State is once more at the forefront of global terror.
A shooting attack has left at least 40 dead.
4 ISIS terrorists armed with automatic weapons.
More than 100 people have been killed and scores of others.
In recent months, a fresh wave of attacks and plots has delivered a sobering reminder of the threat posed by the terror group.
Police are calling it an act of terror after a man drove a pickup truck through a crowd on Bourbon Street.
Having spent decades hunting the most evil terrorists in the world, Andrew McCabe knows just how difficult it is to stamp out extreme ideology. Islamic State was never really dead, was it?
No, absolutely not. You never really defeat a movement. You may deny the enemy access to recruits and support networks and pieces of real estate and territory. You may drive them from one area to the next. They may become weaker over time. But that impulse, that dedication to fight the West, the United States, Australia, our other allies and colleagues around the globe, that never goes away. So left unchecked, that seed of terrorism germinates, it repopulates, and the next thing you know, you're right back in the same fight.
How great is the threat of Islamic State to Western democracies in 2025?
I think there's no question that our experiences in 2024 and seeing what particularly ISIS-K has been able to do around the globe has got to wake up our governments and our counterterrorism professionals to ISIS as continuing to be one of the highest priority threats we have to deal with.
It's a chilling warning, and one that's reinforced by those who would seek to unleash terror on our shores. From his death row prison cell in Iraq, former Islamic State commander and Etihad plot mastermind Tarek Kayat has his own disturbing message for the West. This is just the beginning of a new era of terror.
The Islamic State has started it. It has begun. The State of Islam will not die, but will return stronger than it was.
On this week's 60 Minutes podcast, Extra Minutes, the lessons that need to be learned from Islamic State's failed terror plot against Australia.
They packaged up explosives, popped them in a DHL courier box and literally posted them around the world to test border security.
That's Extra Minutes, available now on your favourite podcast apps.